welcome back. You have just tuned in to Women's AM. This morning, I'm joined by Sister Nusrat, Sister Shaman, and Juhi Tahir joins us via Skype all the way from America. Assalamu alaikum, Juhi. Jazakallah khair for joining us this morning and obviously bringing with you a lot of expertise in the topic. I'm really excited to get into the discussion this morning. Before we start, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your work with the US disabled charity Musen. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you do there?
Absolutely. First of all, Jazakallah khair for inviting me to the show. Muhsin is the newly formed organization, Muslims Understanding and Helping Special Education Needs. It was founded by Sheikh Omar Suleiman, a scholar who some of you may know, in order to make our communities more welcoming for people with disabilities, children, adults, generally awareness for them, accommodation for them, acceptance for them.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, that sounds fantastic. And I think basing it around education is so important because obviously you don't want children to feel isolated from education at all. So Jazakallah khair for sharing that with us. Without further ado, let's go straight to her views, where today we're discussing autism. Autism spectrum disorder, ASD, is a mental condition present from childhood that affects a person's ability to communicate with ease and to form relationships. The Quran says with every hardship there is relief. But what do we need to know about this condition, and how can we as a community support those around us affected by autism? This is, of course, a live discussion with the sisters, so please do call in with your comments or questions. The number to call is on your screen now, or you can, of course, tweet us at Islam Channel, #WAM15. So, Juhi, I'm going to come to you first to kickstart the discussion. What are the specific, symptoms or conditions of autism?
Well, really, as you stated already, it is a spectrum disorder. It's neurological, and no people who have autism really, you can say that they would have the exact same symptoms or conditions. What we find is anything to do with developmental delays, often associated with speech. Social behavior is very different in children or adults with autism. Oftentimes you see hyperactivity, we see seizures. So really it depends on the individual, but there are so many conditions that present, and it is not really fair to say that one individual with autism would be, exactly like the other. There are some people with autism who are extremely social and love the company of other people, and there are some that you'll find very recluse and who tend to isolate themselves. But oftentimes it's social and communication issues which would be the most common.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can see it in quite mild forms and also more, severe forms as well. So we can see it manifesting itself in different ways because of that as well. I just wanted to pick up on something. We know that it's present from childhood, but what about when you go into adulthood? Would you experience the same symptoms, or would these reduce, or would you be able to manage them more effectively as you get older?
Oftentimes, statistics show that these days autism can be diagnosed even earlier than the age of 2. Right. Those who have not had that benefit to be diagnosed early go into adulthood, and oftentimes you hear people say, oh, that person has a very quirky personality.
Yeah. I think it's, a kind of hugely varied condition, and there's so much, so many different ways that we can actually see this. But I think aside from the actual person with autism, we can see how this affects the family members around them, and very often people don't know how to kind of cope with it, and it can present a lot of different problems. What else can you tell us about this, Shaman?
Yeah, so caring for an autistic child can be a tremendous emotional, physical strain. So parents might feel judged by society. They can sometimes blame themselves for why their child has actually developed this condition, and they might feel guilty that their child is missing out and not knowing how to help and facilitate their child best. So sometimes it can actually cause tension between them, could lead to marriage breakdowns, even divorces. Even with the siblings, it could cause issues because you often have a sibling who has to take care of their brother or their sister with autism, and they have to, they can't socialize with them, they can't go out with them. So for family members, it's a huge thing. But also, we could see that, one of the family members, you'll see them who cannot actually work. again, that leads to financial strain. So as they grow up, you understand that the child may become quite difficult to handle, you know, with tantrums. So kind of preparing yourself as well mentally, how you're going to deal with that. So parents could become isolated and depressed if they do not receive the right kind of help, and that's professional help. But as I said, siblings again suffer along the way. But more importantly, the individual themselves actually suffer, because you know the children with autism grow up to be adults with autism, and they have to. It kind of affects all of their relationships that they have between that time, their mental development, as the sister mentioned earlier on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it affects friends, it affects the individual themselves, it affects the siblings and the parents.
Yeah, absolutely true, absolutely true. And I think this is, you know, really important. As you said, knowledge is power, isn't it? So if we kind of prepare ourselves for what you can expect if you have a kind of friend or a family member with autism, then obviously that's going to best place you to be able to kind of deal with it in future years. Sister Juhi, let me come back to you. We lost you for a minute there, but we've got our connection back, alhamdulillah. You were talking a little bit about how, and Sister Sharmin's also been talking a little bit about how, you know, autism kind of grows from as you're a child into adulthood. Sister Juhi, can you hear me? Okay, I think we've lost Sister Juhi there. Inshallah, we'll come back to her in a minute. But I think Sister Juhi, can you hear me?
Yes, I had lost you for a while. I don't know what happened. I'm very much...
Alhamdulillah, we've got you back. You were talking before about, you know, children with autism and how it can manifest itself in adulthood, and what are the differences between that?
Yes, and as an adult, I think one of the biggest predictors is how much intervention there was as a child, or you know, with the therapies as a child. So in adulthood, you know, oftentimes those who go untreated as children, you see some of the more severe cases. However, today, on a more positive note, there is so much that can be done for young children, that we're finding that the population as it ages, there's a lot more therapy, there's a lot more work being done, that you're seeing children get the help that they need, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think this is a key point that Sister Juhi's kind of raised there, that it's you know, there is a lot being done, and it's not something that we should despair of if we're kind of in this situation, and we should be, you know, looking at the support that's out there. But I think also, you know, we should be looking at the people with autism and thinking about how they can, you know, how you can have a positive impact upon these people. Sister Nusrat, would you expand upon that for me?
I think one of the ways in which you can have a positive impact on people that do have autism or autism spectrum disorder is actually understanding them. And in order to understand them, you need to actually find out more about their condition. And in order to best that understanding and not harbour judgments, involve interaction with them constantly, not necessarily in situations where you have to, but actually willingly and wanting to. So Autism Now, for example, is a website that offers up-to-date information on autism, the latest developments, research, and it's a good initial protocol for people who are just understanding what it is. And even talking to not only the professional, but them themselves, making them feel included in the conversation. That's very vital in giving them a positive impact and actually showing them that they can make a significant contribution. I mean, one of my cousins actually does have autism, and he's one of the coolest people I know, because he's just so happy, so enthusiastic, and he has a real knack for maths as well, and like roots and planning and stuff. So when it comes to things like that, we get him involved in those kind of things. And judgment as well is an issue. Please do not judge people like that, because whether we like to admit this or not, some members of the Muslim community have an attitude towards people with autism and make them feel as though they're impotent, that they can't actually do anything.
Don't you think that might be because they don't really know that that person has autism? It could be like, you know, when you make judgments like, oh, they've got some sort of a mental issue.
Or because you know they've got it, but you don't know what to expect. You don't know what this means.
There's that, and there's some people that are just mean and malicious.
But that's the thing. I think they need to be educated about it.
So I think this is the thing. I think this is the point of talking about it, isn't it? That we can learn about it. We can develop that understanding.
I think that we should definitely learn about it, because it's actually so common in the UK. It affects 1 in 100. And that's 700,000 people in the UK. So it's not rare. It's quite common. So we should all know something about autism.
And that's why we have things like various programmes and initiatives that we find, not even just within the UK, but even when I was looking at it, even in places like Northern Ireland, places all over that are actually encouraging and empowering people with autism to actually achieve their full potential.
I think that's absolutely true. And obviously, you know, Sister Juhi, the organisation that you work for, this is what this is all about, isn't it? Empowering people and working towards having a positive impact on those with you know, various conditions, including autism.
one of the powerful programs that we're creating is actually youth training. So where you were saying statistics over there, here in the U.S., we're looking at 1 in 68 children as being diagnosed with autism today. And that's huge, and that's affecting the Muslim communities. So at Mossman, what we're striving to do is, whether it's an Islamic school or a public school, we're going ahead and we're creating programs where we go in, talk to the youth, make them aware. If you see a child making strange vocalizations, if you see a child who's not really as social or not answering you perhaps, this is how you handle them. Welcome them, reach out to them, bring them into the community.
Absolutely. Sister Juhi, I'm going to have to stop you there. This is such a fantastic point, and we're going to come back to this after the break, inshallah. But unfortunately, we do have to go for a quick break now, but don't go far, because when we return, we'll be asking what support is there available for those with autism. Before we go, here is a quick reminder of this week's competition.
This week on
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Women's AM. This morning I'm joined by sisters Nusrat, Shaman and Juhi Tahir joins us on Skype all the way from America. Don't forget, if you have something to share with us on the topic of autism, then please do call in. The number is on your screens now. Sister Juhi, Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to the show.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you for joining us. Sorry, it was a bit patchy, our connection before, but hopefully, inshallah, we're going to, we're going to have a sort of clearer run this time. I just wanted you to continue the point that you were making, beforehand about how kind of early support in childhood can make for a better way to deal with the disorder in adult life. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I mean, I know that there are so many, a lot more diagnoses going on now, and I think people are a lot more aware of the disorder. So one of the things that when I talk to parents and families and support groups, we stress our early intervention and not to ignore some of the symptoms and signs early. The biggest disjustice you could do to a child would be to ignore something and think, oh, they'll grow out of it, they'll get better. I think if something is striking you in the gut and you're thinking about it and saying this just doesn't seem typical, you may or may not question it with your child's doctor, your pediatrician, because there are many symptoms that we think that will just go away, and sometimes they progress and they get worse. And so the earlier you, and culturally, I think we have an issue with that. I think we're getting better, alhamdulillah, but we need to know that that's only for the betterment of our child, that if something doesn't seem right, and developmental delay and language delay and certain behaviors that are non-typical should not be ignored at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So, your recommendation would be to take them to your GP soon, if we're worried about anything?
Yes, absolutely. And at the same time, observe your child with other children. And again, not being a physician, I still believe that, these are things, and I'm also a parent of a child on the autism spectrum who is, mashallah, now 15, but she's made great progress. And one of the things is being an active parent. Get support. And, autism affects not only the individual, it affects the entire family. It affects the community. And one of the things we talk about here a lot is you can find support and you can talk to other parents. It would be a huge benefit to you because then you have someone to share that with. And that's really important to your own well-being. And if you can handle...
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. And I think the point that Sister Juhi made about the kind of ripple effects of this throughout, not just within the family, but throughout the community as well, this can't be ignored. And this is the way that we develop a better understanding and that we're better placed to support, sufferers and their families. We have a caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Welcome to the show. Jazakallah for calling in. I understand you have a comment about, we're discussing autism, obviously, and I understand you have a comment to make.
Yes. First of all, assalamu alaikum to all the sisters listening to the show. I'm a mother of an autistic child myself. And somebody long time back, my son is 28 years old now. And a message that I want to say is, I'll keep it brief, that please do not despair of having an autistic child or any special needs children, because I think this is a gift from Allah for us.
Absolutely.
And when my son was born, around the age of 2, he was diagnosed with autism. But when he was around 7, 8 years old, somebody had given me a small prayer. It's from the Quran. It's in Juz 16, Surah Taha. And it comes after the 10th ruku. ayah number 25 to 28.
Yeah,
it's the prayer of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam when he was given the task to reform people around him, and he had asked Allah to help him. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Please recite this prayer for your child every single day with Durood Sharif before and after as many times as you can. And your child will have a speech in no time.
Absolutely,
my son actually did not speak a word. And my husband actually used to say that if you die, then we'll have to bury him with you, because nobody could understand his language. But now he speaks so fluently, alhamdulillah,
mashallah,
that I have to tell him from talking right now.
For your call, sister. And what a fantastic and inspirational phone call from the sister there, and some fantastic advice.
Yeah.
Some fantastic advice there about, not despairing in the, the mercy of Allah. There's barakah in every situation, and, a fantastic reminder, of the dua there. And I think, obviously, Islamically, we should be, we should be putting this into an Islamic context, Sister Nusrat.
Yeah, I think it does need to be put into an Islamic context, that generally, when we look at examples of people who had some form of impairment, whether that's by speech or autism or whatever, we look towards people such as, even we look at Musa. Musa had a problem.
Yeah.
He had a speech impediment, but he never despaired. He always knew that Allah would find a way out for him. And instead, Allah made it easy for him. So people shouldn't think that because you have autism that it would limit yourself. In fact, it can actually lead you on to do great things.
Allah knows what we don't know and can see what we can't see, so we shouldn't ever despair. Fantastic point raised by the caller there. We have another caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Welcome to the show. Jazakallah khair for calling in.
Thank you,
do you have a comment or a question to pose to the panel?
My name is Roya, and I really wanted to make a comment here. Since my child has also been diagnosed with autism while he was at the age of 2.5. So what we really did, he was a child who was really lost in this world, and he didn't know how to communicate. So what my message today is for any of our sisters that they have a child, they shouldn't lose hope. They keep on, trusting sort of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and keep on trying hard and working hard with their children. And what actually happened for my son, who has been diagnosed with severe autism, actually working hard, spending a lot of time, has actually, we managed for him to put him first at the specialist unit. Then later on at school, he went halfway integration, and then now he is in full-time education like any other children. So what my message today is for my sisters, to never lose your hope.
Absolutely.
Just keep on trying and working, especially one-to-one help, and then put that one into sort of communication and within your family, and you will see the impact of that one.
Absolutely,
and my another message is that since this problem is mainly diagnosed in these countries, I just hope our communities like Afghan, Bangladesh, and Pakistani community will also realize this problem and not look at your child as he has got a mental issues or anything. It's just because autism is something that your child can look at the world in a different perspective.
I think that's absolutely true, and I think Jazakallah khair for your call, because I think it's a really fantastic point that the caller's made there. Obviously, in this country, we have the benefit of lots of support, lots of research, lots of knowledge, but obviously there are countries out there that don't have this. Sister Juhi, did you hear the caller's comments there about the? Firstly, she was saying not to lose hope in the faith and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also, about other sufferers in other countries that may not be as well equipped to deal with it as us, and, how are they going to cope with it?
Absolutely, and I think it's beautiful how the sisters are calling in. You can still hear me? You can hear me?
Yes, please do go on,
I think it's beautiful how the sisters are calling in, because we all feel that way. And again, as parents, we want to give hope to those who are just starting this journey. One of the things I can say is, yes, we are fortunate, alhamdulillah, to be in the places we are in. But this is a time to reach out and help others, because frankly, it's a very, very scary journey. If we can talk about what works for our children, we can provide that support to others. So, for example, the one-on-one education, I think that's so important. If you can sit down in your community and explain to someone that maybe your child is lost in a typical school setting, but that same child can thrive if you can give one-on-one attention to them. So it doesn't matter really where you are, but if you can find one compassionate, kind person who's willing to spend some time with your child and sit down and explain the same concept. These children, Allah has made them so special. They are not deficient. They are just different.
Absolutely true.
We learn.
Sister Juhis, forgive me, we're coming to the end of the discussion now, and we've really had some fantastic points raised. I just wanted a very quick last take-home message from you, maybe to do with our responsibility as a community to support those either suffering with it or have sufferers in their family.
Absolutely. One of the big things is to take the example of our beloved Prophet ﷺ. He took in our Sahaba, several of them, and included them within the society, within the community. Look at this as Allah's creation. We have to go ahead and support and include and welcome these individuals. I think that is the number one thing. They are a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they can only give us patience. They can only give us reward for dealing with them, working with them, and being with them. And that's my message to everybody out there.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for that last take-home message. And alhamdulillah, I think today's discussion has given us a comprehensive introduction to some of the challenges of autism and the support available. We also explored how, as Muslims, it's part of our faith to ensure that we don't cause any difficulty to those individuals affected by autism. Our actions and behaviour can have either a positive or a detrimental impact on the growth of a person. As there's no cure for ASD, inshallah, the advice that we have given you will give you something to explore in the future, inshallah. We've had some great insights and tips from the panel this morning, but if you've missed any of today's show, don't panic, as you can catch the repeat tonight at 11 p.m. And of course, you can catch the highlights from all this week on Sunday at 3 p.m. Or why not catch your favourite episode of Women's AM on YouTube? Here are the details.